morning, everybody. We're starting day 4 by getting on the Jesus boat and going out on the Sea of Galilee. After today, we're going to be heading to Jerusalem, but we wanted to make sure everybody got on this boat and went out on the Sea of Galilee, where Jesus walked on the water, where Peter walked on the water, where Jesus slept in the boat, where the storms came up, and we're going to do some singing and have a great time. So welcome to day 4.
What we look into, Steve was telling us, is the floor of the house. Walls being churches, all those that were built above. We look down to the floor. We look down, as I quote Father Fraser, from the level of the paralytic. We're at roof level.
Decided to become Catholic was New Year's Eve, 1993. He wanted to save us from our lunacy. He saw the direction we were headed. We argued until well after midnight. Janet and I were trying to just explain to him why the Catholic Church was starting to make sense to us. He told me that when I became a Catholic, he could prove to me that that bread that he said is just bread was not the flesh of Christ, and he could prove it to me because he's a scientist, a biochemist at Ford. I said, how can you prove it, Jim? He says, I have microscopes, and after you become a Catholic, he said, I want you to go into the Mass and take the Eucharist, and then an hour later I want you to come to my house, and I want you to vomit up the Eucharist, and we're going to put it in my microscope. And if it is a protein, then we will prove that it has become flesh, and I'll believe it. But if it's still only a carbohydrate, then I win because it's proved it's still only bread. So what would you say?
No way.
See, but you know who I am. I said, of course. Of course. And then the Lord says, okay, you can, but first ask him a question. It's just as clear as a bell. The Lord said, ask him this question. So I said, Jim, okay, we'll do your experiment if you answer a question for me first. Okay, he says. He said, if we were walking through Capernaum, right here, on the Via Maris, and Jesus was coming back from one of his trips, and we stepped in front of him and took my little Swiss Army knife, and we cut the tip of his finger off. And we put his tip of his finger under your microscope with the blood and fingernail and everything. Would you, when you focus it down, would you be able to detect the divinity of Christ? He said, no, only his humanity. But Jim, you're a Baptist. You believe that Jesus was 100% God and 100% man, but with your 5 senses and your instruments, you could only detect his humanity and not his divinity? So what would you prove with the Eucharist? You can't even prove that he's divine with your microscope. What's it going to do if I vomit up the Eucharist and you test it? All we're going to do again is prove that you can't tell everything with your 5 senses. Realize our 5 senses are very limited. You don't see the angels around us right now. But not only that, you don't even pick up all the Wi-Fi signals and the TV and radio channels and everything else that are going right. Okay, everybody's eating St. Peter's fish here. The head and all. You got to pick through the bones. Look at this. This is the way Jesus ate his fish when he lived here. This is a restaurant right on the Sea of Galilee. We just got off the boat and had Mass at Capernaum, and now everybody's enjoying their St. Peter's fish.
Yes.
We got a whole restaurant full here. Janet is out there explaining to everybody how to get the meat off the bones. And everybody seems to be having a good time here enjoying this fish. Here we are ending the day in Jerusalem at the Notre Dame having dinner. This is Vatican property. It's only 10 minutes from the Holy Sepulchre. And everybody's now enjoying their dinner after a long day. And we're all glad to be here.